Do we have audio? We do. You can hear. Okay, good.
Good evening. How are you, Debbie Allen?
Good evening.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cicely Harris. I'm the chair of the board. We're just going to wait for a couple of more of our board members to come on, and then we will start. But thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Okay, again, my name is Cicely Harris. I wanted to give a little bit time for our board members to get on. I see several board members, since we do have a voting item today, excuse me, I wanted to give them as much time as possible so they could hear the presentation. We don't have a lot of our on our agenda today, but what we do have is the important street code naming. So I wanted to go ahead and make sure we're getting, these can have decent amount of folks, but we can go ahead and start introducing ourselves. And as the board members come on, they will introduce themselves. Again, my name is Cicely Harris. I am the chair of the board and the interim chair. Interim has been a long time, it feels like, but I'm the interim chair of the Transportation Committee. So welcome to our first meeting of the year for our transportation team. I do see board member Karen Ori, and then I'll call the board members, and then I will ask our visitors to introduce themselves. Board member Ori.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Laurie. I'm Chair of Parks and Recreation, and I'm also a member of this committee.
Thank you, Karen. Yes, she's our chair of Parks and Rec. Her meeting is tomorrow for anyone interested in going to Parks and Rec, 6:30 right here on our Zoom. I do see board member Tiffany Reeves. I don't know if Tiffany can unmute just to say hello. If not, we can come back. I'll go ahead and move to board member LaShonda Myers. Can you hear me? Or maybe they can't unmute. Okay. So we'll come back to them. So we're gonna go ahead and start introducing our guest. I see Mr. Whetstone.
Yes, good evening. I am Michael Whetstone. I'm a principal at Beyer Blinder Bell Architects, and I am here for the Metropolitan Museum project.
Okay, thank you. And is there a Miss Joseph Anona?
Yes, I'm Anona Joseph. I'm representing the 131st Street Block Association and the 100s. And I'm here and going to partake in the presentation on the co-naming of the street.
Thank you, Miss Joseph, for joining us. Miss Brett Gaylord. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
It's Gaillard. It's
Gaillard.
Many people pronounce it differently. My name is Brett Gaillard. I'm the head of capital and infrastructure planning at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and we're here tonight to talk about the planned renovation of the Rockefeller Wing. Thanks for having us.
Okay, thank you. And then Alina Augusti. Sorry if I pronounced your name.
No, you're right, Augusti. I do government affairs for the Met, and we're happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, thank you. We're happy to have you. I see Miss Jennings. I had spoken to you earlier, so welcome, Miss Jennings, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Renee Jennings. I am the president of the Block Association of the 100 block of West 131st Street. I am also here to discuss and present the co-naming of our street.
Thank you, Miss Jennings. I see Miss Taylor, Miss Karen Taylor. You are muted, Miss Taylor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Taylor, and I'm representing While We Are Still Here, a Harlem Heritage Preservation Organization.
Thank you, Miss Taylor. Miss Allen, Miss Deborah Allen.
Good evening, everyone. Debbie Allen. I live on 131st Street with Anona and Renee. and I'm here because of the naming of the block and who the person means to me. It's a pleasure to see all of you this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Amy Lombardi. Sorry.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Lamberti. I'm from the Council's office at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I'm just here to watch. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. And then there is Belinda Akoto. I'm sorry.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. This is Belinda Patel. I'm from Harlem Children's Zoom. I'm the community organizer at Community Prep.
Thank you for joining us. And Dana Mondesir.
Hi.
Hi, Dana.
I'm Dana. I'm a community member. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out, Dana. There is an H. Miller.
Yes, this is Henry Miller from BBB Architects as well.
Thank you. Welcome. Mr. Sridarhan, I'm sorry. I am messing up your name.
Oh, hi, everyone. You can just call me Ram. Yeah, I'm just a resident attending community board meetings. Thanks.
Good to see you again. I know you've been on a couple of our meetings recently, so good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. Happy New Year, everyone.
And Justin?
My name is Justin Mayer with the Metropolitan Museum of Art, representing the construction department for the project.
Thank you. Laura Sankey.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Sankey. I'm a community member. I'm just listening to the meeting today.
Thank you. Thank you. And I see Marissa Mack. I wonder if it's one of our board members from another board. Is that Marissa?
Yes. Hi, Cicely. Hi, good evening, everyone. How are you? I am joining because I feel like I actually don't do enough of visiting other boards that are very involved and very on it. So I thought I'd start with Community Board 10 this evening, and looking forward to hearing what you guys have and what's on the agenda for this evening. Actually, I am the chair of Economic Development on Community Board 11. But thank you so much for having me, Cicely.
Thank you, Marissa. And we have a great connection with Community Board 11 and Marissa as we did the HDFC Awards, and our boards have been really working together. So I'm glad you came out tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to try to get over to 11 if I can.
Anytime. You're always welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. So I did see. Okay, I don't know if Tiffany and LaShonda are ready to speak. If not, we could go ahead and get started. Tiffany, I see you coming, and LaShonda, both of y'all coming alive. Tiffany.
Yes, hi, sorry about that. I'm Tiffany Reeves, everyone. I'm on CB10. I sit on this transportation committee and also arts and cultures.
Thank you, Tiffany. And LaShonda?
Hello, everyone. My name is LaShonda Myers. I am a board member. I am on CB10 as well as public safety and EcoDev.
Thank you, Shanda. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We can start with our street co-naming and then we'll move to the Met. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. It's the Met. So you all are not, just for clarification for me, it's not a voting item at this time. It's just information purposes only. Is that correct? Just want to
It
make
is
sure.
a voting item.
Okay, let me make sure.
Yeah.
Well, hold on one. Okay. Okay, got you. I just want to make sure. All right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with our street co-naming and then move into the Met presentation. So we did send out the documents to the board members so that they do have the supporting proposal. So everything, Ms. Jennings, everything you sent us, we sent out to the board members. So the supporting proposal, the petition signatures, and I think the actual application. So everyone should have that. All the board members should have that. So if you want to go ahead and start, if you just tell us a little bit about the project, and then we will go through the signatures. We want to make sure I did take a look at them. So they are from the general area, but I do want the board members to see those as well, because that's really important that we get neighborhood signatures, not just from Harlem residents, but from that block. So that's really important. So if you want to go ahead and start.
Yes.
Thank you.
So as we sent, the 100 block of West 131st Street enthusiastically proposes the co-naming of the West 131st Street to the Honorable Sheila Abdul Salam Way. Judge Abdul Salam was a resident of our block for over 3 decades, and sadly, she passed on April 12, 2017 at the age of 65. What we have Ms. Anona Joseph and Ms. Debbie Allen, who knew and worked with the Honorable Salam over a long period of time, I want to say over 30 years, and they each would like to speak on behalf of this proposal. And so I guess we could start with you, Anona.
Sure. In preparing the proposal, I contacted members of Judge Abdul Salam's family. I contacted her colleagues on the court. I contacted her tenant who lived with her for over 20 years, and actually they were childhood friends. And of course, I contacted many neighbors who knew Sheila, as we like to call her, intimately on the block. And Debbie Allen is a great example of that. I think it speaks for itself that Sheila Abdul Salam was the first African-American woman to be appointed to the New York State Court of Appeals in its history. And she lived on our block and was truly a neighbor, someone that we all related to. She was a person who would struggle with her long hours of work to participate in any block activity that we had. When we had meetings, she might show up at the last 10 minutes of the meeting, but she would come. If we had an event, if she would either attend or she would make a contribution to that particular event. I'd like to share with you some of the words of one of her closest colleagues, the Honorable Judge Deborah James, who's a member of the Supreme Court for New York State, and her feelings and thoughts about her knowledge and relationship with Judge Abdul Salam. The Honorable Sheila Abdul Salam leaves an enduring legacy through a quarter of a century of trailblazing achievements and outstanding jurisprudence. One example of her outstanding legal research, clear writing, brilliant judicial reasoning, and uncompromising sense of fairness is the opinion she authored as a trial judge in the matter of Aliazo versus Novella. In Aliazo, a decision that was substantially affirmed by the New York State Court of Appeals, about a decade before she joined our state's highest court, Abdul Salam held that under the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution, all persons, including non-citizens residing in New York State, were entitled to medical care under Medicaid on a non-discriminatory basis. Judge James goes on to talk about the warm relationship she had with Sheila throughout the years of their association. which expanded over 30 years. I think that more than anything in terms of her outstanding achievements in jurisprudence is the fact that she was just a wonderful, down-to-earth human being and a great neighbor and someone we all loved and were so saddened by her unexpected demise. And I think Debbie Allen, who's going to speak now, has had a longer experience with Judge Abdulsalam than I have, and can really speak to the knowledge of someone that she enjoyed a close friendship with for many, many years. Deborah? Deborah, are you there?
Yeah, okay. I was trying to.
Hello, Deborah?
Okay. Hello? Can you?
Yes.
Okay. So I had the good fortune as I, moved from the far outer boroughs of Queens into Manhattan when I finished Columbia. We were a loose group of people who had come from other places trying to establish our homes in Harlem. John, I'm sorry. We're trying to establish our homes in Harlem. And Nona has already spoken. She's down to earth judge. Everyone had something positive. She'd stop, how are you, etc. I mean, just a wonderful, wonderful neighbor to have. And and unfortunately, some of the best times that we hear about someone is the tributes that are given to them after they pass. So I don't even know where we were, a judge's chambers, etc. And people had wonderful things to say, but more than that, people from the community, young women said she took an interest in them. She took Barnard seriously, those young women at Barnard, and said, let me help you. She always, despite her length of time and working, she always had time to stop and to talk to us. It was wonderful. So I think it's an honor, and it's an honor to see this possibility happening. I hope all of you can hear me because I can't hear myself. So it's, thank you very much. And thank you for listening. Just down to earth, young woman from Washington, DC, and she really was committed to the community. So thank you so much. And I understand, Cicely, that there's not voting, but you really want to hear something about her and why we're putting forth this proposal.
Yes. Well, this is a voting item for us. We will be voting.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood.
Yeah. So what the process is, just so you all know, and then you can continue, is that we have this initial committee discussion and vote where we kind of look over some of the documents to just make sure that, they are sufficient for the committee. And then it goes to the executive committee, which we do have another meeting that is the last Wednesday in January. And then it goes to the full board for a vote. So this is a full board vote that has to go. It'll be at our February meeting. If the paperwork and everything is aligned, it'll be our February meeting for a full board vote.
Excuse me, I'm getting help with cooking tonight. So it's very hard. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ms. Allen. Is there anyone else that's going to present for this?
No, that's it.
Okay. All right. So thank you for your presentation. I can try to, I don't know if the board members had a chance. Okay. Karen, you can get your question, and then I can try to share my screen just so you all can see the application. Go ahead, Karen.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that Honorable Sheila Abdulsalam had a very phenomenal career. So that's extremely impressive. I'd just like to ask, I noticed that you have 21 signatures. And I'm wondering if these signatures are coming from all of the buildings on your block? And also, do you have any support from surrounding organizations or businesses?
So you should have more than 21.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have more than 21. I think 21 is probably, you have one page. And they are all from the block, and some of them are, there is a, I'm assuming the known like TOs is on there.
Yes, and Sheila's the hairdresser that's on the block, plus I think we have the signature of the undertaker that's on the block. So yeah, we've gotten as much, you know, support from the immediate area as we could.
So I'm
Thank
sharing
you.
my screen, Karen,
Thank
so
you. I
you can
didn't see those
see.
other pages.
I'm sharing it now so people can
Okay.
see
Mhm.
how many signatures they are. And it is important, it's on there a lot from 131, 131st, and the surrounding area.
And we have many, Friendship Baptist Church is on our block, and we have signatures from some of their participants.
So I believe that is all
Do you have,
the signatures.
and I'm just wondering, do you have support from the church?
Yes, from Friendship Baptist Church, yes, absolutely.
Is that in the form of a letter of support or something?
No, we didn't request a letter of support from them. We had got their signatures, but we presented to the congregation at different times, and they definitely are supportive.
Is it possible to get a letter of support?
Absolutely, we could easily do that.
Okay.
And I'm
Yeah, that
just
would be
wondering, are there
great.
any other businesses or houses of worship in the area that would give you letters of support?
We could certainly get from the other businesses, and there's one other church that we probably can get a letter of support from on the block.
And this is Debbie again. We might even, well, I'm not sure now because it's so difficult with contacting, but when the judges came together once a year, they came to a service at Abyssinian Baptist Church. I might be able to ask someone there to get a letter.
We couldn't hear that last part, Deborah.
Sorry. I could, because the Baptist ministry, the judges, once a year, they came together for a meeting, and they came to Abyssinian Baptist Church. I may be able to get someone to give us a letter of support from the church. Somebody's not muted, so there's a lot of sound effects.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So that would be great to get that other letter. And then I think we could be able, are there any questions for the board members or from our general public at this time? If not, then we'll probably can go ahead and move on.
So this is Debbie again. So it's at the end of the month is when really the vote and decision is made. Is that true, Simply?
Yes. So I mean, like I said, we have the 3 steps where we have this meeting tonight, and then the end of the month meeting, and then the general body meeting, the general board meeting, that first Wednesday in February. Yes.
Okay.
So that's when you'll find out any information.
I'm sorry, so any additional information that we would submit between now and then would be used in that February meeting? Is that how it goes?
It would be great if you could get the letter before our executive meeting, which is that last, I'm trying to look up the date, but that last week, last Wednesday in January. If you could get it to us by the 27th,
okay,
then we can include it in the packet. And that will probably help inform their vote there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You know how difficult it is now, but fine, we will try.
Yes, yes. Even if you could just get like even an email or something like that. I don't know if it is, something that shows that a letter is forthcoming or something like that. We would appreciate that.
So, well, so I guess Anona would be the contact if I could get something like that. Yes? Okay.
Okay.
Or Renee.
Okay.
Yeah, send it to me, Debbie. Will be me.
Okay.
I'll take care of all of that.
And you have my email business. Yes.
Hey, Cicely, it's Shatik. The 131st Street Block Association, if they're in support of it, clearly you guys are. If you could provide a letter on your block association letterhead, that will work as well.
So I know that Ms. Jennings, you did provide a letter and signed it as you are the president of the Block Association.
Yes.
So that is in the packet. Do you all have like a letterhead, or if not, then this should be sufficient and I can go ahead and share that just so people know what that looks like.
Yeah, if you can share this, I mean, it is from the Block Association. The letter itself.
So this is the letter we have.
That's sort of the transmittal behind it. So there's that, and then behind it is a longer letter, which I think I read from the beginning of, and then we have the application, and then we have the signatures. So this is the letter, yes, and then behind that is a longer letter, literally a page, that's this one. So the lead into this, which has more information, and then we have the application, and then we have the signatures.
Yes, I know that we have the letter. The only reason I said the letterhead is because that's what they ask for when it goes down to city council. So even though you have this, if you do have a letterhead, you could provide it. If not, I guess, we'll just accept this.
I mean, again, if that makes it easier, we could provide a letterhead. It's not a huge deal.
Thank you, thank you.
I'd like to just add that I should not have any trouble getting a letter from Friendship Baptist Church. The church that is at number 115, I'm not sure, and I don't know if you know, Debbie, as to whether or not they've been meeting during the period or not. So we may not be able to have, I don't know that we have a contact really with them.
I spoke to Carolyn. We could ask Carolyn, but I think it's sort of prohibited right now unless they're doing live stream or something else in terms of services. I know at our church, we're doing live streams. So
yeah, I'm saying Friendship Baptist Church won't be a problem. It's the other smaller church on the street that I think we might have trouble with. The one next door to Sheila's house.
Okay. Well, any effort you could make that, we would appreciate it, and just let us know.
Okay.
Okay. If there's no other questions about this application. So again, we will be reviewing it on January 27th at the EC meeting. So if you have any questions, just please reach out and then we'll talk then.
We will do that. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Feel free to call us if you have any questions.
Thank
you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening. Now we will have our presentation from the Met.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. It was actually really interesting to learn about Judge Abdul Salam, so I'm happy that we were here to learn about her. So my name is Brett Guyard. I'm the head of capital and infrastructure planning, and I'm going to speak just very briefly to introduce the project and then hand it over to Michael Whetstone, who's a principal at Beyer Blinder Bell, the architects that are designing the project. We've been planning a renovation of the Michael Rockefeller Wing, which was built 40 years ago and houses the Arts of Africa, Oceania, and the Americas. It's on the south side of the museum, the big glassy facade on the south side. And we've been working on it for 4 years, conceiving of its content and raising money. And even through this current crisis, we've been continuing to work on the project because we feel that it's incredibly important. And so we are getting ready to implement. And we're going to begin enabling work soon, but we're going to begin major construction in about a year. So we're preparing for a public hearing at the Landmarks Preservation Commission in February, and that's why we're here with you all tonight to introduce you to the project and hopefully get your support. The goal for the project is to really address the curatorial goals and the care of the collection. The collection was gifted to the Met 40 years ago as primitive art. And it's incredibly important to us to reimagine this collection into the three distinct regions that they are, which is Africa, Oceania, and the Americas, and treat those galleries as distinct regions and separate galleries, as well as to treat the art and care for the art the way we do for Greek and Roman or modern and contemporary, and conserve it for future generations. And right now, I don't know if you've walked by the Met lately, but the south facade isn't looking so good, and we need to fix it up. We have issues with condensation, we have issues with water infiltration, with controlling daylight, and we have light sensitive art just on the other side of that wall. In addition, we care about the birds that are slamming into that facade because they think it's the sky. And so we want to address bird safety as well in this replacement and really create a 21st century environment for the objects inside. So we're making the commitment to the infrastructure as well as to the gallery reinvention. And so what we're here tonight to talk about is really just the facade, the infrastructure piece. The gallery is not, the interior is not a landmark. It's not something that we're going to bring to Landmarks. But just to frame this for you all, there's a sister building to the Rockefeller Wing, which is the Temple of Dender on the north side. And while they look the same from the outside, they're actually very different on the inside. The Temple of Dender was always meant to feel as, well, first of all, it was always outside but before it came to the Met. And it also faces north. So it can handle the light that's coming in from the north because it's not southern light. And it was also always able to handle daylight because it was a structure that used to be outside. And the intention of the inside is to feel as though you're outside. But on the other side, on the south side, while we want there to be a connection to the park, we also need to conserve the painted wood objects on the inside, and it needs a different treatment than what's on the north side. So with that, I'll hand it over to Michael Whetstone, and we're here to answer questions once she's finished. Mike?
All right, thank you, Brett, and thank you very much, everyone, for letting us present tonight. If it's okay, may I share my screen to show you the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, have I done it? Can everybody see the presentation? Okay. So I'm going to give the architectural presentation that, as Brett said, we are showing to the Landmarks Commission for alterations to the outside of the building. So first, because the museum is in the middle of the park, the process that the Landmarks Commission requires is that we present to all 6 community boards which surround the park. We've been doing that during the month of January, and we will be finished. That will allow us to present this to the Landmarks Commission at a public hearing on February 9th. Just to show you where we are, this is an aerial view of the Met with Fifth Avenue at the bottom, and the park on the top and on the sides. And the Rockefeller Wing is on the left. It's the south side of the museum that we are talking about. And just to explain why we have to present this to the Landmarks Commission, this is a plan of the museum from a 1970 master plan. And the area that you can see in pink is the historic museum building that was there by the time of the 1960s when it was designated a landmark. So the full Fifth Avenue facade across Fifth Avenue was completed then, but many of the wings in the back had not been built. The commission approved a master plan by Roche Dinkeloo Architects in 1970 for the construction of all these wings that you see in yellow. And those were built in the 1970s, 80s, and through the early 90s, including the Temple of Dender and the American Wing on the north, and then the Rockefeller Wing on the south side. So we are not proposing an alteration to the historic Metropolitan Museum building. as it was designated. We are proposing an alteration to a modern edition from 1982. And since it was approved by the Landmarks Commission originally, we have to get their approval to change it. And again, we are talking about this red rectangle, which is the sloped glass wall on the south side, more easily visible in this aerial view. So you can see this aerial view of the Metropolitan Museum, Fifth Avenue on the right side at the top. And on the south side, outlined in red is what we're talking about. That is an enormous wall of sloped glass. It's 200 feet long, 60 feet tall. It illuminates the interior galleries of the Rockefeller Wing. And that is the piece that we are proposing to replace. This is just a cross-section and a floor plan of the Rockefeller Wing. So on the floor plan, you can see the big square. At the bottom is the AAOA Galleries. That stands for Arts of Africa, Oceania, and the Americas, which will be completely reinstalled and redesigned, as Brett mentioned. And the part that's coming before the Landmarks Commission is not the galleries, the interiors, but it's really just the glass wall on the outside. So in the cross section, you can see that bold yellow-orange line is the section to the glass wall that we are replacing. This is a south elevation of the Met. You can see the old Fifth Avenue buildings on the right, the modern and contemporary wing from 1987 on the left, and in the middle is our big glass wing. When the project was first designed, this is a model from 1970, the architects knew that this wing faces south, and having a huge sloped glass wall facing south acts like a greenhouse. It lets tremendous amount of light and heat, which could be harmful for the art objects inside. And so they understood that they had to have some mirrored glass or reflective glass. You can see it in their model, perhaps some clearer glass at the bottom so you can see out. But this idea of trying to fight off the sun has been with this building from the moment it was built. You can even see in some of the construction drawings from the mid-70s, this idea of two kinds of glass, clear at the bottom and more reflective at the top. On the left is a photograph of those galleries when they were first opened in 1982. And you can see the glass walls on the left, and there are these enormous blinds, window blinds, 60 feet tall, that always have to be there because the sun is just beating in, and the sun and the heat could be harmful to the art objects. The galleries were modified over the years, so you can see what they look like right now. The second floor was extended a little bit, but you can still see there's always these heavy shades in front of the glass. And so one of the things we want to do is try to improve the glazing to better protect the artwork. At one point, around 15 years ago, a plastic film was put on the outside of the glass. And as you can see, the plastic film did not age well. It was trying to tint it like some sunglasses, but is not done well. And the curtain wall, after 40 years, the sloped glazing wall is actually in quite poor shape. It's corroded and it has a lot of condensation problems. It gets cold in the winter and drips water on the inside, water which can drip off and potentially damage the artwork, as well as the damage to the glass in the film. So as part of this renovation and reinstalling these important galleries, we want to completely replace the sloped glass wall. As I said, it's enormous, 200 feet long, 60 feet tall. It's 12,000 square feet of glass and facing south. So the goals for the replacement, what we're trying to achieve, is we want to have a much better energy efficient glass wall that's resistant to condensation. So in the cold months, it doesn't have water forming on the inside and dripping off. Better insulation values so that we reduce the energy costs. In fact, our energy model shows that this will reduce the cost of heating and cooling this wing by 2/3 because we can put in a much more efficient glass. We want to improve the glass with films and other kinds of solar control so that we don't need to have those shades. We want to be able to see out the glass and still have natural daylight come in a very controlled way. We want to address the mechanical systems and leaky roofs and gutters, but we also want to make the glass bird safe. Glass buildings, especially ones that are sloped, have walls. They reflect the sky and they confuse birds. Birds in large numbers tend to just fly right into the glass and meet an untimely demise. And so we want to use some new technology to make the glass look more opaque to birds so they don't crash into it. So as we go through our design, we're going to completely remove that enormous glass wall and then replace it with something new. So the new glass wall is going to, for various technical reasons, it's going to look different than the current glass wall. And this is the reason that we need to go to the Landmarks Commission, is to get approval for these design changes. One you can see is that the glass panels are going to become bigger. The glass panels are quite small. That's the existing condition at the top, and they're going to become significantly larger. I'll explain the reason for that in a moment. But in general, we're going to keep the glass exactly as it was in the same plane, just a different system. So you can see the top and the bottom, we still have that enormous glass covered wing, but it is subtly different in detail, but essentially preserving the original intent, which is that enormous volume of glass. So the way we're going to address the sunlight, this is a cross section, is there are 8 rows of glass going up the facade, and each row of glass is going to become more and more opaque and translucent as you go up. So the bottom row of glass is the most transparent. You can see right out to the park, and each row of glass, as it gets higher, gets more and more translucent, more and more opaque, and less light comes in till you get to the top. And this is our way of preserving a view out, but preventing so much damaging sunlight from coming into the galleries. Here's a view from the inside showing the idea of the bottom row of glass being clear, and as you go up, it becomes more and more opaque. There's a little rendering of what it will look like. This is the inside now. The smaller pieces of glass and the shades and the film you can see on the outside. And the right is what would be new. The pieces of glass will be bigger, a wider spacing for a more open look that the curators want, and also that ability to see out, as the shades have been there for 40 years. There's so much sun coming in that sometimes there will need to be a shade at the lower grill. So we have not been able to avoid the shades completely. So there'll be shades at the bottom, coming up from the bottom just during some of the summer months, but other times of the year they'll be able to see out and see the view. And then on the right is a rendering that our exhibit designer did of the new gallery installation, which without the shades will be much more open and bright, and with a sort of soft glow of light coming in from the wall, rather than having these harsh shades. The other difference is really for a technical reason, and this is something that's going to make the glass wall look different than it does now, but a difference that we're doing entirely for technical reasons, not aesthetic reasons. So you can see at the top is the glass wall as it is now. There are these aluminum frames or caps on the outside of the glass, forming a grid that you saw in the photograph. And this is a very energy inefficient way to build a glass curtain wall, because the connections to hold on the glass caps go between the pieces of glass. They form cold bridges, causing a lot of the condensation problems. And this kind of technology is just not adequate to handle the Met's special climate control system, which keeps the temperature at a constant 70 degrees and a constant 50% humidity. That high humidity to preserve the art objects in the winter when the wall gets cold is what causes the condensation. Water tends to drip off. So in a new system, we have a triple glazing, and we are holding onto the glass entirely from the inside, or the warm side, so nothing protrudes between. So instead of seeing the metal caps on the outside, you just see a thin layer of sealant. So it's a different look, but it's really done entirely for technical and performance reasons to improve the performance of this glass. The way the bird protection works is that you can see the glass is multiple layers, 2 layers of laminated glass. The screen on the inside lamination just prevents light transmission as it go up. But on the outside, you can see these little dots, and those dots are the key for bird safety. When the birds see those little tiny dots, they perceive it as leaves or buds on trees, and they think of it as a solid, and therefore they tend to avoid it rather than fly straight into it. Here are some photographs of glass samples that we have at our office, which you can see those frits. It's interesting, the frits are, those little dots, they are visible close up, but really not visible from far away. But then it turns out that for glass buildings, the buildings department is going to require, starting in 2021, starting now, that glass buildings have these bird protection frits. So these little dots are actually code required from here on in to prevent those bird collisions on glass buildings. Some details showing how the bottom and the top and the edges of the glass wall will be improved insulation-wise, but remain the same profiles and appearance as they are now. And then here's the rendering. This is what the glass wall looks like now. You can see the grid of the aluminum caps and the small glass size. And then what it will look like if it's built according to our proposal will be like this. So you can see that the grid of aluminum caps is gone. You just have the thin line of the sealant. You have larger pieces of glass, then you can see the differences in glass as you go up. We think it's a fairly subtle change in appearance. It's a great trade-off, we think, for the great improvement in performance. Here's some other views of what that glass wall looks like now and what it will look like when it's completed. However, I think it's worth pointing out, we want to especially point out this to the Landmarks Commission, is that really one actually never quite goes up to this wall and stands right next to it. It's up a hill and far away from the path. If you were walking through Central Park, you'd be on a path you can see in the lower right. It's about 50 or 75 feet away from the glass wall. So you don't really get close up to it. You're always looking at the glass wall through a screen of trees, meaning that you would probably hardly ever notice the difference that we're proposing architecturally. And then from Fifth Avenue, you can see the glass wall way in the background, but it's not particularly prominent in this view of the iconic Met facade. The Landmarks Commission did ask us about the visibility of the Rockefeller slope glazing in relationship to some of the other glass walls on the back of the Met, and we wanted to include these diagrams and photos to show that they are quite separate from each other. You really can't see these other glass additions where the glass touches the ground at the same time as you can see the Rockefeller wing. And Brett mentioned this, the Met didn't want us to replace pieces of glass at the Met piecemeal because the building is, of course, a unified design. So they asked us, well, what would eventually happen with the Rockefeller wing's twin on the north side, which is the Temple of Dender. So we looked into that. You can see Temple of Dender, 1978, Rockefeller wing, 1982. One faces south and has all those sun problems. The Temple of Dender faces north. It doesn't have the sun problems, but it's still a curtain wall that's facing corrosion and condensation problems. So eventually it needs to be addressed. Here's the Temple of Dender and the view from the building on the north side. So the Met has no plans or funding or schedule in place to replace this curtain wall at the time. However, if it ever came to be that it became time to do a project like that, if it ever became time, the intent would be to use a similar system on the outside. So there would be some consistency if there were ever a future renovation. So the north side Temple of Dender and the south side, the Rockefeller wing would look similar to each other. There are also glass skylights on both of those wings, which are for a future project. We were asked to address this. These would be replaced. Here's the skylights on top of those wings. They're not really visible from the park, and so are not sort of a great concern in terms of landmarks approval, but we would propose eventually to replace the skylights in the top of both wings with a similar high performance system. And then one more piece before I come to the end of the presentation, which is a precedent. We've actually installed a similar kind of glazing system before on the Met. It's currently under construction. It's on the European Paintings wings, which are on the west side of the Met, as you can see in this view. We replaced 30,000 square feet of skylights, all in blue, that you can see here. This large band here faces due west over the park and is visible. And the Landmarks Commission approved a very similar system there. In this case, the glass illuminates attics, which illuminates the paintings galleries below. And again, a very subtle change from a historic glass system to the new one. Similar to what we're proposing, we wanted to improve the performance really for the exact same reasons the Commission did allow us to do. This one, that the evolution of skylight systems at the Met over 140 years is interesting. The glass technology always changes. And it's our feeling that the Met should always be putting in the most appropriate high performance glass technology that's available to it, because in the end, the idea of the skylights is to protect the art. allow daylight in, but to protect the art from the elements. And these investments in capital are large. So we, looking at the evolution of skylight systems at the Met, we think that what the Landmarks Commission should always do is approve the best possible system, regardless of how the look of the skylight system has evolved over the years. So that's what we are arguing for. This is a rendering showing the very subtle change from the old skylights to the new skylights along that west face. And that project is about halfway finished. And here you can see those new skylights along the west side of the Met, overlooking the park, similar to what we are proposing for the Rockefeller Wing. That really concludes the presentation. The idea for the schedule is that this would start construction sometime late 2021 and take about 14 months to complete. Anyway, thank you for your attention and listening to all that. And thanks again for having us. Welcome your questions or comments.
Thank you so much. That was a lot, but it was very thorough, and thank you. I see one question from Karen Ori, and I think we'll get into some additional questions.
Sure.
Thank you for that beautiful presentation. It looks like it's going to be really fantastic once it's completed. And I'm just asking, will there be any impact on the park itself and any of the trees or shrubbery in the area?
We've begun to study that. Usually there's some sort of small impact that's temporary, but we don't have the full details on that because we haven't quite worked out all that with the construction manager yet.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions from any of our board members? I did have a quick question. So what is the timeline? I was trying to look at that really quickly. It's going to start, and then when do you think it'll be done?
Let me go back to the schedule. So construction would start in fall of 2021 and continue through the end of 2022. So it's about 14 months construction starting next fall.
Everything, so that entire wing will be closed?
Yes, the second floor will probably remain open, which is the Impressionist paintings, but the bottom floor, those galleries would be closed during that time.
Where would they be placed with those exhibits or whatever? Is there be placed somewhere else, or would it just be in storage, or what happens to those
Mike,
things?
I can take that one if
Sure.
you want. So we're gonna start closing some of the wing. It's 40,000 square feet in this July to enable the movement of art. And the plan is to install elements of the collection throughout the museum. So there's a few different areas in the museum so that we can continue to display the artwork. There's also hopefully going to be a traveling exhibit of some of the Oceania collection to other museums so that we continue to keep it on view while we're doing the project as much as possible. But then some of it will be in storage as well as undergo conservation treatment. So we're actually building one permanent and two temporary conservation areas within the museum footprint to conserve some of the objects that haven't had treatment in about 40 years.
Are there any other questions? Karen, did you have another question?
Yes, I was wondering, will this, in terms of the park again, will this have any effect on will it require closures of any part of the park?
I don't think so. I think generally there's just sort of a small construction compound with a fence that's right near the building. And I can tell you this just from our experience with the ABC, the Skylights project that I just showed you. I think that there are trucks which are able to enter the park with the flagmen who bring them in at scheduled times. But the impact should be fairly small and just limited to the area directly in front of that facade.
And I'm also wondering what other boards have you which other boards have you presented to?
We presented to Community Board 8 and 5 and 9 so far.
Thank you.
And if you could, did those boards give you a resolution or anything, or what did they do?
All three of them gave us a resolution of support.
And when are you presenting to Landmarks again?
It's scheduled for February 9th.
I think that's perfect for us because it, like I was explaining before with the other presenter. Okay, so it'll be at our general board meeting in February 3rd. So, okay, great for the full board vote. Should I follow up? So I will be writing our resolution if we decide to pass it. Should I follow up with 8, 5, and 9, or is there a resolution you can share with me, or should I just follow up with my sister boards to see how they crafted their resolution?
I think we can get the resolution to share with you. I'll handle that.
Yeah. Okay, are there any other questions, not just from board members, but from our visitors today? And I know Kara just asked it just to be sure, but you don't expect any environmental issues going on with dust or asthma or anything like that, or what's going on with that?
No, we don't have any environmental requirements that are triggered by this project. It's really a replacement in kind of a large window system.
So I'm just wondering, will your impact study be available before the end of the month?
So as part of this project, we have reviewed with our attorneys and with the city, and we actually don't need to do an environmental impact statement for this project. We're not required to. Amy, I'm not sure if you're still on the call. We had to write a letter, and I don't know the proper term for that, but what the letter was that we did in lieu of an EIS. We're not required to do an EIS for this project.
Right. I think what Michael said is because it's a replacement in kind of a portion that it and it has a limited footprint within the park. But if there's further questions, we can follow up.
I just asked because I had asked a question about the impact on the trees and the foliage in the area. And I was told that you were doing a study of that. Is that something separate from any?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
That's something separate. So there's an environmental impact statement, which has a whole series of milestones and is a 2-year-long process, and we're not being required to do that. But you just meant the impact on the park from the construction. I understand. So we have a construction manager that's been recently brought on board for the project. We had looked at this over the past couple of years in terms of how we can mitigate any impact on the park, even temporary impact. And we can follow up with them to see what we can get to you.
I'd just like to say that would be great. We could include that in our resolution. This sort of thing.
I have a quick question. This is Shatik. Is there a way that we can get the actual presentation that you guys presented tonight?
Yes, I think there's a link. We have it as a link because it's too large to email, but we can send you the link. And it's possible that the link has already been sent to you, but we can certainly follow up and send that.
Thank you. I think that would be helpful in
Yeah.
case we have any questions at our executive committee. And then I don't know, we'll talk in the meantime about if someone could be there February 3rd for any type of questions that might pop up from the general public as well. So, but yes, thank you so much. So the Temple side, that's not going to be affected by this one, but eventually you said that this renovation you're doing now on the Roosevelt side will have to happen over there as well eventually.
Yeah, it's not part of this application, and it's really just put in the presentation because Landmark staff requested it for reference. So it's not something that we are asking for approval for now. It's something that may happen at some point in the future, but no schedule or definite yet.
Okay, thank you. That is one of my favorite parts of the museum. I just saw it a couple months ago, so I was excited to be in there again. But just for clarification, like I was asking before, so we don't see any issues, yes, to the trees and everything, but to folks that are just in the park, there won't be any dust residue, any type of air quality concerns, because everybody's trying to be in the park right now, especially with, this pandemic. We are loving our park right now. So I just want to make sure that I know you are required to do the environmental study, but has there been some thought to that? Or is there anything going on with that at all?
Mike, maybe you could use a comparison to the ABC Skylights project, which is currently happening.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So the Skylight project that I talked about, which is on the west side of the museum, has been under construction for a couple of years and has a couple of years to go. And that project is actually 2.5 times bigger than this project in terms of the glass area being replaced. And I think that's gone fairly smoothly. It really comes down to something like a large window replacement in a way, a roof replacement. And so it's not a particularly invasive kind of construction. But it might be compared to what's been going on there just around the corner on the museum for the last couple of years.
You mentioned that there might be so there wouldn't be any asbestos concerns because of the windows, or there's just not, is that why there's no asbestos concerns or anything?
Yeah, it could be that because it's a newer building. I'm actually not sure what that aspect is. If it is there, it's very limited and on the interior, not associated with the windows.
And that level of control is always the responsibility of the contractor, and we have very strong language controlling the dust mitigation, because of course on the other side we also have the art. So what's good for art is also good for people too, and vice versa. So we have really strict requirements for how they behave in the museum, and in terms of dust, in terms of asbestos remediation, all of those things. And we can see what information we have that we can share with you all about that.
Brett, I just wanted to jump in. So if there,
thanks, Justin. I forgot you were here.
I didn't want to interrupt too much.
Please interrupt me.
Okay, sorry. So as part of like the permitting process, we have to test any potential areas, and even though there's nothing expected just the year that it was built, if there is asbestos found, it has to be by law contained. So the remediation would never be airborne to the workers, anyone in the museum, anyone outside the museum. So that really, if there is anything, it would have to be, like I said, remediated in a contained area. And just addressing the trees, I've been working with Tishman and Central Parks and Conservatory, and there's no trees that are being removed, and there's, there might be some slight trimming on the north side of the trees. Kind of, there's a park, there's a little area to the north of the park, it's a park inside the park at 79th Street that we're working with the Parks Department to see if, or the team to see if there's how much actually has to come back, but it's very, very minor trimming or any impact there, but it's nothing permanent, and it would be very, very minor, if anything.
Well, I'd just like to ask, so you have the support of the Central Park Conservancy?
You said you're asking?
Yes, for your.
So we started, this is like Brett had mentioned, we are kind of working early on where this is Tishman's a new contractor on the project. So we are going to be engaging with them within the next month or so.
So we've met with CPC once, I think, but we need to brief them now on the details. So they're aware of the project and comfortable with it, but we have to get into the details now.
Board Member Nelson?
Yes, good evening, everyone. My question would be, you're coming to the community boards to get letters of resolution, but you haven't, from what I'm hearing, you haven't spoken with the Central Park Conservancy to get a full approval from them. Not that you need it, but I would think that they would be the first ones that you go to, and then to the surrounding boards.
Right, well, so the application that we have before tonight is really only to do with the window replacement, not the entire project, and that's just specifically for landmarks approval. So landmarks approvals process is that they require resolutions from the 6 community boards, and that's so we're just following their requirement. But we will eventually we'll go to the parks and everyone else.
I think I asked that question because we work closely with the Central Park Conservancy because we have various items that we're working on with them. And we wouldn't want to sort of say yes and them not being in support of the process. You said that they are in kind to it, but will the support of the community boards weigh in on the decision when it's presented to the Central Park Conservancy?
No.
Like you said, you presented to them, right? So you haven't gotten their support. And you mentioned, Mr. Whetstone, that you're not required, you're required to communicate with the community boards that are surrounding the structure, right? So when you present to them, you'll be able to say, hey, we went to all these community boards and they support it too, so, which will sort of weigh in on their decisions, because now you're presenting them with, powerful presentation and support.
Yes, I mean, we will get to them. I mean, our process now is just get to the Landmarks Commission to see whether we can do this curtain wall replacement, and then I think the logistics and the mechanics of the construction are what's more of concern to the Central Park, the parks and the Conservancy. So we will work out those details once we're able to get just design approval to proceed.
Thank you. Will you be able to come back to the board or at least report to us any concerns that they may have when you speak to the Conservancy, when you go back to them?
Yes, we can.
Just to be, transparent,
Sure.
so we're all aware of what's going on. That's my only question. And thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to speak.
Yeah, and we are, Barbara, just wanted to let you know that we are meeting with the Conservancy simultaneously. So we're not waiting until, all the community boards are done to then say we have everyone's support. We are in the process of scheduling that and, continuing the conversation with them. And we'll absolutely let you know if they have any concerns.
Thank you. And thank you, Barbara, for those questions. Are there any other comments or concerns from either board members or our guests tonight? Okay. So what we're gonna do now, I think we are one person short of quorum, but we will still go ahead and have our discussion and give like a consensus. If we did have quorum, what would it be? What would our vote be? And then we will give our consensus and our thoughts and feelings to the EC committee, executive committee, because they do like to know what the committee discussed, what the individual committee discussed, and then we will move it to the general board if it passes there. So the first thing we had on our agenda tonight was the street co-naming at 131 for Judge Sheila Abdul Salam. Is there any comment from our board members at this time? Well, let me go ahead and do our roll so I can get everyone officially checked in and here. Let's start with Karen Ori.
Present.
Tiffany Reeves.
Present.
LaShonda Myers.
Present.
Barbara Nelson. And Derek Perkinson.
Derek is present.
Thank you. Okay, good. So attendance is done. So board members, we are going to go ahead and move into our discussion period. Is there any discussion on the street co-naming at this time? I know everyone maybe had a chance to review those documents. Just for the board members that may have missed it, we did ask for the Block Association to submit another letter on letterhead. Just so we can have that official document. We do have a letter from them, but we would like it on letterhead. And then we asked for letters of support from the churches, from the surrounding churches. I think one of the churches was Friendship. Karen, do you remember the other church? The small church you mentioned?
I did, no, I didn't get the name of the other church. They just said it was a small church.
Okay. So we asked, yes, Barbara?
I'm sorry. When I was reviewing the documents earlier, my question was in regards to the date. I was talking to Juanita because I didn't see anything in the document sent as to the date that they submitted it and the date that it was sent to us, because it appeared to me that it was just sent today. And Juanita explained to me that it was just approved to come to the board today. So I just think it would be more helpful if we are alerted when they first put it in, so we can also have an opportunity to, you know, if we're in the neighborhood, go and see what we can see and talk to who we can before the date of the actual voting and presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Nelson. I apologize for that. I did send it. I did get it from Ms. Jennings in a timely fashion. I did send it, but I will from now on probably just send it to you all myself when I receive it. It may come out of nowhere and you might be like, what is this? But when you get something from me, I'm just sending it and passing it on, you know, simultaneously to me getting it, so we can do that. But yes, thank you for that. Great suggestion. Are there any other comments or concerns about this application? Okay, all right. So if we were to have a vote, would the committee be in favor or against this? Whether is there anyone that would be against this street co-naming? Hearing none, if we were to have a vote, this would pass. So I will let the EC committee know that the Transportation Committee is in favor of this. Okay. We're going to move on to our next presentation. We had a presentation from the Met on the Rockefeller wing. It is the replacement of glass, right? The slanted glass wall there. It's going to the Landmarks Committee, I believe you said February 9th. However, for February 9th for consideration. Just so you know, just to recap, it has been presented to the other boards. I'm sorry if my notes, 8, 5, and 9, and they have all submitted resolutions in favor of. If I know Alina said she would go ahead and send me that. If we are in favor of it, then I will be able to utilize those resolutions and get that to the committee. Is there any discussion from our committee at this time? Any additional questions, concerns? Okay. If we were to have a vote at this time and we did have quorum, would the committee, is there any objection at this time? Okay, hearing none. If we were to have a vote, this would pass. We will go ahead and submit this to the EC as the committee being in favor of this resolution and this change in landmark for Landmarks Committee. Okay. Thank you all for coming. We can move on to old business. I don't know if you can stick around if you want to, as we discuss old business. Is going to be very quickly. We're going to talk about these city bikes for 5 seconds. And then we'll probably move on to close out. But for old business, and I know Ms. Taylor is here under old business, Ms. Karen Taylor. Mr. Weston, did you have a question? Did anybody from the Met have a question before we move on? Oh, okay. we can talk about City Bikes really quickly. So I did reach out to Jennifer St. Inez just one more time to figure out what's going on. There has not been any movement on that corner, so that is a good thing. I don't know if it's because they just haven't done anything or if we're making an impact. I don't know what that is, but nothing has happened there. And I reached out just for one more conversation about the placement, and I haven't heard anything right now, but I will reach out one more time. Hopefully I'll send the email this week. Is there any comment about City Bikes from our committee? I just wanted to give you all that update. Okay.
Cicely, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I
Karen?
just wanted to ask, is there any update as to follow up with the request for more outreach to the community more? Has that evolved at all?
So yeah, no, it hasn't. I haven't heard back, but I did make one more request just for a general meeting. So maybe they could come to our February meeting just for one more, try bite at the apple. I haven't heard anything more. I did, like in December, give the Block Association and some concerns constituents Jennifer's information so they could contact her. And they have not reached out. So, but we can do one more, liaison, and then, did our part. So,
Thank you.
Okay. Really quickly on old business. I see Barbara had a question. Shatik, any follow up on the repair of the light fixture at 151 Emma Combs? And Shatik, did you want to answer that?
Yeah, I answered it in the chat, but I forwarded to Lau this week. He just got back from vacation. I should hear from him probably before the end of the week. I sent him over the pictures that Miss Nelson sent to me in regards to that broken light. It's actually a traffic signal.
Thank you, Shati. Because that's a corner that's heavily trafficked from most of the people coming from the bridge. That's the only turn west past the post office. And for that fixture to be hanging down like that, people really need that for instruction to cross, right? So I was just a little concerned, but I have another situation I'd like to bring to your attention. As of late, in that same area of McCombs, we are finding that food service trucks, like they're opening up restaurants over there. Aren't there some sort of applications or something that need to come forward, Paris? And aren't there some applications or something that for food trucks to just set up and park, and they have expired plates on them? So if you get a chance, Shatik, take a walk over there, you'll see them. They're they're food trucks.
What street is that? McCombs and
Between they're parked, there's one on 150th and McCombs, and they're parked in the parking spaces, but you'll see that one. And then the other one is attached. It's right on 151st in McCombs, between McCombs and Adam Clayton Powell. But you can't miss it. Like when you turn in the block, and when you come around that way, you can't miss them. They're like right there. And when I looked at the permits for the licenses, they're expired. So I'm like, maybe people are trying to hide them by putting them in our neighborhood. I don't know. But they just appeared yesterday and they're still there. So I'm assuming that
they're not in operation. They're just parked.
They're not in operation. No, they're just parked, and they should not be parked on the streets like that. They have to be parked in some sort of lot. So the other concern is that, it protrudes out pretty far when you make that turn, that left turn, if you're coming in from 150th going into McCombs.
Sure, I'll check it out tomorrow.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And just our last item, I know Ms. Taylor has come to us for a letter of support in the past. Did you want to briefly talk about the letter of support you recently received? Was it CB9 or CB11, Ms. Taylor? You're muted.
I'm gonna mute.
Good evening, everybody. To your question, Cicely, it was CB9. They gave us a provisional letter of support, which essentially states that in spirit, they support the project, but they need to know specifically what streets the markers will be on, in the final analysis. And so basically, I figured that that was really a good way for them to do that. And part of the, I guess it's a wonderful problem to have, is we got support from 2 different foundations. One of them has a specific kind of marker that they will support. And the other foundation monies that we got, it's completely open. So we have 2 kinds of options for signage, which is helpful. Yeah. So we're just looking for a letter of support, and it could be, similar to the one from CB9 in that it's provisional. If we want to say put marker A on 132nd Street in Frederick Douglass, we have to come and give a presentation and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like that.
I know there had been a question last time you were here, what that marker might look like. I know that we had looked at a couple of, you had 2 different or 3 different ones you were looking at. And so what would that marker look like, or we're not sure?
In the letter that I sent to you, to your email, there are 2, they're listed there. So you'll get to see those. If you want, I can share my screen to show that. Would you like me to do that, or would you prefer to share your screen? I'll share my screen. Wait, let me get there. Let me get there. Hold on a second. Okay.
Do you have it pulled up? I can share my screen. I have it pulled up now.
My internet is so slow today. Yeah, share yours. Thank you. Right, so the top marker, actually ours would be white with purple writing. The top marker, we got support for 25 markers throughout various sites in Harlem. And if you scroll down, Cicely, we got another, go back up. There's another picture, that picture right there, right there. That is another kind of marker. That's a possibility based on the money that we got from the New York Community Trust. And so essentially it's up to each community board to decide which signage would go in which area. So those are the 2 designs. Except, as I said, the first one, this top one here that's blue and yellow, ours would be a white background with purple, purple writing on it.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and send this to the board members now, so we could take a look at it. And I believe you said that you would provide us the resolution that CB9 did.
That's it.
Oh, that is a resolution?
Resolution they did, yeah.
Oh, okay, got you. Okay, so this is it. I'll go ahead and send it to the board. Is there a timeline that you would need something like this?
Well, as soon as possible, because we're putting together the application for the DOT and the EDC. And so basically we need to first send it to DOT. So if we could get it by the beginning of February, that would be perfect for us. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to send it to this committee. I know we don't have another meeting before then, so maybe we can all communicate via email on any thoughts or questions about this. And then we can present it again to the EC as a second kind of presentation. Okay, Karen, did you have a question?
Yes, I wanted to ask Karen, does she have a listing of prospective honorees or at this time?
Yes, we have the listing and I can send it to Cicely so she can send it to everyone. Is that okay?
And I'd just like to ask, is the Cotton Club included on that listing?
The Cotton Club is not included on the list. Some of the places that we have on the list are sites that not many people know about in terms of the history. And that's the point of having these markers. To backpedal, we had a public meeting in the library in February 2020, and people came and shared, their ideas as to what kinds of things should be, honored in Harlem. One of them is the site of Malcolm X's funeral, where Ossie Davis called him our Black Shining Prince. Another is the site where Queen Mother Moore lived on 155th Street in Amsterdam. That's Community Board 12. But, in Central Harlem, we have Althea Gibson's house on 34th Street between 7th and 8th. And we've got like 25 different markers. We've got the Regina Andrews residence, which was the site of that famous picture on the rooftop of County Cullen and Langston Hughes at a party they had. So our intent is to honor sites that are important to Harlem history and to African-American history in general. And those that are not necessarily well known, like the Cotton Club or something like that. So.
Well, could I recommend the Cotton Club, because there's no commemoration to that at all. There's a Cotton Club on 125th Street, but that's not where the original Cotton Club was. But where the original Cotton Club was where is at 142nd and Lenox, where Malcolm X Boulevard, where Minnesota Townhouse is.
Well,
and there's no commemoration at all.
Well, the thing is, in terms of like the parameters of the grants this cycle, we had to present everything beforehand to them because they wanted to know, what are you proposing? What are these historic markers that you're asking for? Why are they significant? And so in this pass, I don't know if we could have the Cotton Club there, but I mean, we could always ask. I don't know if we could have the Cotton Club there because it's not in the original grant application. But as I said, Karen, we can always ask the funders if that's possible.
Thank you, Karen. I think if that inquiry could be made, I'd like to recommend the tall marker, which gives, you can put history and there's more of an explanation.
Right. I love that tall marker. I love that one.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you, Miss Taylor, Karen Taylor. I believe I'm sending that out right now. So my internet is a little slow. So you should all get that email from Miss Taylor tonight. Are there any other questions? Miss Taylor, I know we have your contact information and you have mine. If we have any questions in the meantime, I will send you an email with those questions.
Okay.
So you get back to the committee.
I'll send you the list for everyone else.
Okay. So yes, you can just send it to me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll send it out now. Okay, that's old and new business. Oh, Barbara?
So the list that she's going to be sending out is a list of all the sites that was presented at the time the grant was put in. And will there be an additional letter sent to your or an amendment to your proposal for additional sites, or how's that gonna go?
Well, essentially, what it boils down to is since we've already signed the grant proposal contract, we'll have to go back and sign another contract to see what happens. I
Thank
don't,
you.
yeah, I don't see why they would say no.
Right, because I don't want it to just be limited to what is there when we have so many sites. Perhaps even at some point to gather more support, because I'm on the same page as Karen with community support. There are probably many more places that we don't even know about, but some of our seniors within our community or the Harlem community could identify. We have a young lady that always comes to our full board, and she would be like, she has a hell of a memory.
Right.
Oh, what's her name? Sister Knox?
Miss Nixon?
Miss Nixon, yes, yes.
Ms. Nixon.
She's a world of knowledge about Harlem and various sites. So if I can even suggest that perhaps you can get in contact with her, you get so much information, you wouldn't even know what to do with it.
I was gonna say that we actually have around 63 different sites. And we didn't work in silo. We worked very closely with elders who've lived in Harlem forever, you know, and we actually sat down and spoke to them. Some of them came to the meeting. So it's not like we came up with this list on our own. We actually, you know, I mean, there's a woman down at 409 Edgecombe. She's lived in that building since she was 7. She's 90 years old now. She's like an encyclopedia. Another person by the name of Sam Anderson lived in Harlem for like 60 something years. He's in Florida now. But I mean, just all of this great information. And another guy, Ademola Olagbafula, he's a co-owner of the Dwyer. I mean, we actually got with the elders to ask them, what do you think should be memorialized in Harlem? Because if we don't do it, nobody else is gonna do it for us. We've gotta do it.
Yeah, I just like to say, the Savoy even has a commemoration, but nothing, there's nothing at all to the Cotton Club.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll definitely follow up with you, Ms. Taylor.
Thank you all.
I think we got through our old business and our new business. So are there any announcements?
Yes, this is Derek Perkins, and I have an announcement. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Derek. Go
Hi,
ahead.
Madam Chair. Good to see you. Happy New Year, everyone. The National Action Network is having a policy forum on January 18th at the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street. 35 elected officials have been invited and confirmed to speak, to give you their views on Dr. King Day. The governor and the mayor will be in the building. 1:30, the program starts, and it should be over by 4 to 4:30. Social distancing, temperatures will be taken. All CDC guidelines will be followed. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Community Board 10. I love you guys.
Oh, Derek, can I just ask a question? Will there be a virtual component?
In this day and age, there is always a virtual component. You can always catch the National Action Network at www.nationalactionnetwork.net, N-E-T, or you can go to Facebook to National Action Network National Action Network, and it'll be live streamed on both platforms.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Derek. Thank you.
Oh, this just in, just as I'm talking to you guys, U.S. Representative Jamal Bowman has just confirmed he will be in the building.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you for your live alerts, all of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam
Be
Chair.
safe as you are driving, okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I believe that is all for now. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second the motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Transportation Committee meeting. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara and Derek.
I second the motion again.
Yes, yes, you do. Okay, if there's anyone opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned at 8:09 p.m.
That's a
Good seeing
new
your-
record. That's a
Bye,
new record.
It is not. Stop
Thank
it.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Cicely.
Very nice to see all of you. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Cicely,
Bye,
look.
Mr. Whetstone. Thank you.
Shantique, my brother.
Cicely, Paris is back and forth. He's listening to us talk, right? And
Is
so he's
he?
jumping in and out, and I'm going, sit down, stop.
I heard you call it a name. I was like, what is going on with Paris?
I'm at Paris's house. I had to get here. I had to get connected to his Wi-Fi. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm on grandma duty. I'm so used to not because he's such a big boy now. Get your finger out your mouth. Say hi to Cicely. Say hi, Miss Cicely.
I'm Cicely.
Hi, Paris. Oh, he's so big now.
Yeah, look, he's trying to hide from the camera. There he is.
So
But he's playing this,
cute.
my son has this huge television on the wall, so he's playing his PlayStation 5 and talking with his friends on the phone as they play. I'm like, this is crazy. So the headphones is for one thing, the earpods is for something else. I just told move out the way. Good seeing you and thank you again.
Okay, good seeing you, Barbara. Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, if you don't get down, let's sit down.